What is up, guys, and welcome back to this episode of the Positionless Pod. I am your host, Kai Gamage, and I'm here as per usual with the brightest young minds in the basketball media landscape. Today, Diego San Agustin, Aaron Matthew, no Mike Cruz once again. Boys, how we doing?
Very, very good. Woke up pretty in a better mood than usual for no reason at all. Just no particular reason. Just
Yeah, you're counting your money for fun?
yeah. I do
That's
whatever
good.
I want, man.
You say whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's how this podcast really goes. Just kind of be yapping.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I can't
We're
wait.
gonna do some more
Exciting
yapping
stuff.
today.
Oh yeah, nothing better. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
I'm happy to ignore the gloomy morning and spend it talking to some beautiful guys here.
Are we
Interesting.
the sunlight to your gloomy morning?
Absolutely.
That's beautiful, man. Wait, what's that? Is that a jersey? What do you have on?
Yeah, it's the jersey I wore for my
Let me see it. What is that?
Yeah.
Looks like a Germany ripoff.
it is a Germany
Oh.
ripoff.
Okay. That's cool.
What's it for?
My volleyball team for my school back in India.
Yeah, I didn't know this guy plays volleyball.
Yeah, well, this guy's
Multi-sport
he's so
athlete.
talented, bro.
Oh my goodness, man.
And he talks about basketball. Yo,
He's truly positionless.
this is it, guys. We actually named the Positionless podcast after our guy over here, Aaron.
You know, you learn something new about each other every single day, huh?
Yeah, this is
What a gift this podcast has been for us. All right. Enough yapping. So we're this is the second episode of our preseason prediction episodes to preview the upcoming NBA season. Last week we did do the Eastern Conference. Now obviously we're going to be doing the Western Conference. Kind of same kind of shtick as before. We're just going to be getting right into it. Just going to be doing about 5 minutes for every single team in the Western Conference. Each of us is going to preview the team, essentially talk about like what they did during the offseason, what their outlook is for this upcoming year, how we kind of see them doing, whether this team is legit or not. We're just going to be previewing every single team in the Western Conference. I guess we should just kind of kick it off just because it's going to be a long episode. Let's get started. Kind of sad Mike's not going to be here to talk about Golden State, but alas.
Yeah.
We're really at a point where we really miss Mike.
Yeah, I know. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Mike doesn't know that Aaron played volleyball,
Yeah.
He's missing out on some key lore.
Mike also doesn't know what Aaron's about to talk about when he talks about Golden State today.
I know. Oh, dude, he's going to cook them probably. But first of all, first team on the docket, we've got the Dallas Mavericks. Diego, I think that's you, buddy.
Oh boy.
You ready? All right, let me get this timer started.
Oh boy, okay.
Cannot wait. Okay, let's go.
All right. So the Dallas Mavericks. What an ugly ending to their season last year. They were through the season, they looked very average. It was obviously the Luka show, but they still didn't look like a great team. They still didn't look like contenders, even though they have a top 3 to 5 player in the league in Luka. But yeah, they just look very, very mid. And they got Kyrie in the middle of the season and expected or hoped things would turn around, but that never happened. Obviously, they had such a disaster of an ending. They were within a very close reach of making the play-in tournament, but obviously we know they missed the playoffs. They fell completely short and they just fell apart. And of course, they were allegedly also tanking on purpose by sitting out their star players during one of the last few games. So it was just a big disaster. But this year they re-signed Kyrie, so I think that's huge for them. And they also completely changed up the pieces on their team. So Dallas Mavericks. I think this is gonna be surprisingly a good team this year. Like I don't think they're gonna look like what they look like at the end of last season. That's for sure. If you if you saw my hot takes, one of my hot takes the other week, I said that they were gonna win 55, 54 games in the season, which I know is kind of insane, but maybe that is a stretch. But I do think they're gonna be a good team. I think they're gonna be potentially a top three, top four seed in the tough Western Conference because of the pieces they obtained through the offseason. And one guy I want to name, which these guys don't like, is Dante Exum. Dante Exum, who had a phenomenal a phenomenal EuroLeague season, has now rejoined the NBA and rejoined the Dallas Mavericks, and I think he's going to be a very good piece for this team, as well as guys like Derrick Jones Jr., Seth Curry, Grant Williams, Josh Green, and Jason Hardy, who I think are going to be even better. Overall, I think the Kyrie and Luka duo is going to pan out to look pretty solid, even though ideally you don't want two guys of their play style on the same team. But I think it could still work out for sure. The offensively, they're just so talented,
Bro, they lost to Real Madrid.
bro. It's a preseason game, and I never
They lost
I
to
would never
Real
overreact
Madrid,
to a
dog.
preseason game. I'm gonna tell you that right
I'm
now.
good. I've seen what I needed to see. Like, they let Real
Mm-mm-mm.
Madrid put 127 points on their head.
That game does not count.
They let
I'm sorry.
Facundo Campazzo cook them, man. They lost two
Telling you,
games
bro.
to the Timberwolves. I am so low on the
And I,
Mavericks,
I
man.
understand. Okay,
I,
I understand everybody who is low on the Mavericks. I understand everybody saying that Kyrie and Luca is never gonna work. But I just don't see it. I don't see it.
it's more than that. It's the fact that they're going to be starting two rookies, like most likely. I feel like Olivier Maxence Prosper, who, with all due respect, I like this kid, right? Canadian, good Canadian boy from Quebec, played at Marquette, 24th pick in the draft. He's great. I think that he's going to be a good role player, but they're most likely going to be starting him at like the 4, unless Grant Williams starts at the 4. And you're going to put an undersized 4 on a team that already struggles defensively. Have fun. And then at the 5, they're probably going to be starting Derek Lively, unless you're going to put Dwight Powell out there for another season, which nobody wants to see. I just, there's no depth on this team. If Dante Exum is like the turning point to turn this into a good team, buddy, I'll be remiss. Okay, I'll do something nasty. Like, that's absurd. There's no way Dante Exum's gonna change this team. Like, they don't have the right role players. They don't have good defense. They traded away their best defensive piece to get Kyrie. Like, DFS was a better fit for this team than anybody else that they acquired. Grant Williams is just there to miss free throws. Like, I don't know. I have no belief in the Mavericks. I think that they missed the playoffs,
Missed
man.
the playoffs, actually. That's
Yeah.
fair.
So you know what? When Diego said that the Mavs will win 55 games, I thought that's going to be the worst Mavs take I'll hear all season. And then I heard Shaq say they will win it all,
Yo,
and
Shaq
I
Cook,
was
bro.
just baffled. But yeah, like both of those things are not happening. This is an awful team. I'm sorry. Like if exactly like you said, if is the guy you are expecting to be the big difference maker, that's just a sorry look. It's not 2015, it's 2023. It's not happening. And like you mentioned the flaws, like their coaching is also such a big problem here. And this just
Yeah,
feels like
Jason
an
Kidd.
organization absolutely disrespecting a superstar talent, like how it was for LeBron in his first Cavs tenure. And I think this is going to, well, he has extended, but like something similar to the decision, it has to happen, because there's no way the Mavs are utilizing him. They are not taking his talent seriously, and they're just surrounding him with Kyrie and Grant Williams as his second and third option, which is a sorry sight.
Yeah. Third option Grant Williams is insane. Never thought I'd see the day. Like, dude, this guy's like the seventh man off
THJ
the
is the
bench
third
for the.
option. Not
Should he be? Should
Maybe
he
not,
be?
but he's better than Grant Williams. I'll tell you that.
Too bad that Grant Williams was their best offseason signing, bro. Like seventh man on the Celtics. I don't see it. I don't have any belief, but that's it. Our time for the Mavericks is up. Sorry for those that wanted us to prop them up a little bit more. Let's move on to a real team. Okay. Denver Nuggets, baby. This team is for real. Okay. Obviously, we saw what they did. We saw them win a championship without breaking a sweat. Like this team is an absolute juggernaut. I don't care that they lost Bruce Brown. I don't care that they lost Jeff Green. They're not going to look like the same players they were last year in their new places. Like what Jokic does for these guys is just unbelievable, right? You get a guy like Christian Braun, who I think probably takes the next step. You get guys who they're propping up throughout the preseason, like Peyton Watson, Julian Strother, a rookie out of Gonzaga. Like these guys are going to easily slot back into these roles that they kind of feel as though they might have lost in an offseason where they did lose a couple pieces. I don't see any issue with it because they're so much better with the Nuggets than they will be anywhere else. And every single role player that joins the Nuggets will be better with the Nuggets than they will be anywhere else because that's just the way this team works. That's the way that Jokic elevates players. That's why he's the best player in the NBA. Add on to that, Jamal Murray. There were points at the start of the season last year where we were watching him play and it was like, what if we never get him back? Like he looked bad. He just didn't look like the Jamal Murray that we had been waiting for since recovering from his ACL, and that's completely fair. Like it was a massive injury. He'd been off the court for like nearly like a season and a half. It was an absurdly long time for him to not be playing basketball, and he looked rusty, to be expected. But then the playoffs came, and we saw what Jamal Murray can bring. Um, the question obviously is, it's like we never really see that in regular season Jamal Murray. If we can see that in the regular season, then great. Like, is this who he really is? Like the one that we saw in the playoffs? Is that who Jamal Murray really is? Is that who he's going to be in the preseason? Hopefully. Does it really matter? No. All that matters is the playoffs. All that matters is the fact that they're the favorite, I'd say. Not according to a lot of sports books. A lot of sports books are saying that Milwaukee and Boston are the favorite to take home the championship this year, but I have a hard time believing any team is better than the Denver Nuggets at this point, especially if Jamal Murray is who we think that he is. I hope he's an all-star this year as well. Just wanted to add that on there. But yeah,
Yeah, no, yeah,
yeah.
See, as a Lakers fan, yes, it hurts to admit that despite losing like two good veterans off the bench, they have the young players who can step up and just fill in their roles seamlessly. And I it it's just going to be a matter of if they can replicate the playoff, like replicate the regular season appear the performances in the playoffs, because that's where the veterans come in, right? So sure, there's some pressure on young guys like Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, who barely even featured last year, and now he has to be like the seventh man essentially on this team. And so it'll be interesting to see how they take a jump. But I do agree that they have all the personnel to go all the way again.
yeah,
I don't care what the sports books say. They are the best team in the league, and like this is what continuity gets you, right? Like we saw with the Warriors with their dynasty. When you have a core, you keep them together for years. You keep them with good coaching. This is what happens. You form a dynasty, and I think this is dynasty potential here.
yeah. And I think everybody keeps talking about the loss of Bruce Brown, which is, obviously a big hit, but it's like it's not big enough to lower their chances of winning another championship because they have the best player in the world in Jokic, and Jokic has that ability to elevate the other guys, as Kai mentioned. So, including those young guys who now have to play a bigger role than they had to last season, they can be a lot better as well. And playing alongside Jokic will just make things that much easier because Jokic is a player who looks to make his teammates better. It's natural for him. He's not a scorer first guy either.
Yeah, look at my boy Julian Strother, man. Freaking 23 points against the Bulls in the preseason. That guy's a hooper.
Truly.
Gonzaga legend. I don't know. This team is just so legit, and like it doesn't matter who they bring in, they'll find ways to integrate them. Like this is Calvin Booth had some like pretty wild comments in an article to Kevin O'Connor in the Ringer that he's since backtracked, which was pretty wild. Um, Not going to get into that drama, but like this is clearly a smart GM, right? Like he understands um, just how to build this team up properly. He understands that you don't want to have a team with too much overlap, right? Like you look at a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I look at them as having way too much overlap in both the front court and the back court, right? Every single player, like DG and Donovan Mitchell, basically do the same thing. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen basically do the same thing. It's just overlap on overlap. But you have a team like the Nuggets, they're just built properly. Every single player has a role that they execute and they play to, right? There's no overlap within the starting lineup. It's just guys that understand how to play their role and be elevated by Nikola Jokic. Like it's so well built. And yeah, like you're right. Like this has the potential for a dynasty. I just don't see anybody dethroning them right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Aaron, you're up, buddy. What team you got? Golden State. Oh my goodness. Already. Holy.
Okay. So when the Warriors won the 2022 championship, they beat like a bunch of storylines that were against them, right? And the most notable one was that this is a washed team, like their core is washed, but they proved them wrong. And so they were all like regarded as contenders again, which was proven awfully wrong when they got demolished in the playoffs. And so they had to like make some changes. They brought in Chris Paul for Jordan Poole, and it wasn't just because he absolutely stunk it up during the playoffs, but it was also to save money and so that they are able to pay like Clay and Draymond essentially. And they also brought in Chris Paul because of how he's one of the smartest players in the league. And despite the clashing play styles, like Chris Paul is one of the best pick and roll players in the league, and Steph, in the few chances he gets, is also that. But the Warriors refuse to do that. So there are some play style clashes here, but like when you have some of the smartest players in the league, you can adapt. And I don't think that is going to be a problem for them. I think they've definitely elevated their floor with the addition of Chris Paul. I like Corey Joseph. Shout out to the Canadian guy. I do like Dario Saric too. Like for the regular season, I think this is solid. Uh, they're banking on Kuminga to have a jump, and rightfully so. He's averaged 24 in the preseason, going ballistic from the three, getting to the line. He had 17 free throw attempts in one of the games. And yeah, so I do think there is some potential there, but I don't think potential goes anywhere beyond the regular season, because in the playoffs, Chris Paul just cannot stay healthy. He's going to be 38 now. It's just getting worse. He cannot score. Like sure he can set it up, but in the playoffs you need guys who can step up and score. Wiggins just cannot seem to go past that 17-point barrier of his. Kumenga, expecting him to be a microwave scorer like how Poole was in the playoffs, seems to be a big ask. And their biggest problem was the lack of size. That's how they got bodied in the playoffs, and they did nothing to make up for it. So that's why I do think even if they end up being a better regular season team, they aren't going far in the playoffs. But I guess this is the most they could do in their situation.
Yeah, I mean, like with all the contracts that are kind of putting them up against the wall, like it's tough, right? Like it's tough to continue to build a team that can. I mean, like they're still contenders. It's just tough to like add to make big ads in the off season. Like you can't upgrade like Wiggins or Clay Thompson at this point, right? Those are just the two guys that you're going to have to roll with. And I'm not with all due respect, like they're great. Wiggins, hopefully he can like get back to his championship kind of play during their run, because that Wiggins was great. Obviously what we saw from him last year was nowhere near what he really is, just with him dealing with his family stuff, him not really being able to play. Once he got back, he just looked rusty. Like that's not who Wiggins is. Like this is a much better player, a much better defensive player, much better like scorer. So obviously I'm expecting a lot more from him this year. And then yeah, I think that like a couple of those losses that throughout the offseason are going to be rough on them. Like losing Dante DiVincenzo, that's a big deal. Like that's a really good role player that I think every single team would want on their squad. Just does everything for you, like really good defensive hound, good shooter. Like that's exactly the type of guy that every team wants on their roster. So I think the losing him might hurt, but as long as you have Steph Curry, I think that like you're perennially going to be a contender. Um, you're just going to be a
Yeah,
legit
because
two
he's
in the
just that
NBA.
good,
Like that's
and
that.
it's still the same core. Like it's still the same trio of guys, even though the other two aren't as good as they were in their prime. They're still good and they're still smart. And when you add Chris Paul into that formula, I think everything just works. And I think one of the things they had trouble with last season was their turnovers. And I think Chris Paul is obviously, we know Chris Paul is a guy who can really just take care of the ball and make smart decisions with the ball. So if you have him as, yeah, if you have him playing point for this Warriors team alongside guys like Stephen Clay, he can just make offense so much easier for them. And obviously, like everyone's been talking about how he can benefit the younger big men as well, like Jonathan Kuminga. Obviously, he's going to make an impact there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean I'm still high on the Warriors. I think it's hard not to be
Yeah, it's
at
just
the end of the
crazy to
day.
say that Chris Paul is. I think like losing Chris Paul would be just huge for them, and would completely turn around their chances of winning a championship. But,
Yeah, I
you know,
think that having seen him in the preseason, like he looks solid. I really like the addition. I think that it makes sense to kind of play Steph alongside a more table setting point guard. It just like Steph's already perfect off ball. If you can deploy him more that way and like call different play sets, like I think that it just added a new dimension to their offense that I really like, and I don't really want to see them play without it now. I like the Chris Paul addition a lot. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Houston,
oh
Diego,
my
you're up,
god.
buddy. Lucky you. What a fun team.
No, that's one thing that the Houston Rockets are definitely going to be. I think they're definitely going to be fun. So they're now,
I don't disagree.
yeah, now they're in their second phase of the rebuild. Obviously, they had their young guys already: Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Shengun, and thank goodness KPJ is gone. Good for them. I never thought KPJ and Jalen Green coexisting would work anyways in the first place. So it was already kind of an awkward fit. And obviously there were running jokes of them last season, looking like an AAU team, because there was no structure there. There was no coaching really, and they kind of just did whatever they want on the floor. So obviously, moving forward into this season, it's gonna be a lot different. It's gonna be a lot different, and I think one of the main reasons for that is because Ime Udoka is now the head coach of the Houston Rockets. Not to mention, you add a veteran in, Toronto Raptors legend Fred Van Vliet into this roster, even though you could argue he is extremely overpaid. Still a decent addition. They had the money to do it, so they just did it. And obviously, Mississauga's very own as well, Dylan Dylan Brooks, the legend himself, the man himself. Oh my God, he's gonna be so fun to watch on this team. I'm not gonna lie to you. He kind of brings the defensive edge that this team really needs, because obviously they were awful defensively, right? And Shengun isn't really a defensive big man either. And I also wanted to add that I'm a big fan of their drafts this year. So drafting Alman Thompson and Cam Whitmore was, I think, huge for them. And honestly, I think Cam Whitmore was an absolute steal, especially that late into the draft. So yeah, this team overall, it's a bunch of young guys, uh, led by Fred and Dylan and Jalen Green, who I think is just bound to have an incredible year, a breakout year. I think all of that coming together makes this team definitely one that you can watch and have fun watching. You know, they'll get butts in the seats, that's for sure. But I don't think they're going to be a
Yeah.
good team. Obviously, with the West being so stacked, that's all.
I think Amin Thompson is the future of this team, right? Like Jalen Green, whatever, man. Like you're a chucker. Like you're a good scorer. You're electric. It's fine. It's fun. But Amin Thompson is the real deal. This dude is actually terrifying. Um, I saw someone say it's like Superman was cool, right? Like Superman was like he's obviously overpowered, but like the one like he always had a weakness, you know? Like there was never anything that could stop him from getting hurt by kryptonite. Amen Thompson has a jump shot. He has no kryptonite now. Like it's over. He came into this draft. The one big downside to him is that he couldn't shoot. His jumper form was horrendous. One summer later, it's completely fixed. It's perfect. His shot creation abilities on another level. His playmaking out of drives is one of the best. It's some of the best I've ever seen. His athleticism is just absolutely absurd, and now he has a jumper. I just it's freaky. Like this is lab made stuff. Like I don't know how he doesn't maybe become like the second or third best player from this class because I see no weakness. It is obscene what I've seen from him in the preseason so far, and it kind of makes me mad that like they went out and signed like Dylan Brooks and Fred because I want to see more Amin Thompson. Like if he's not starting, I think that we're being deprived of something great, right? Like this is the future of the Houston Rockets organization. They absolutely nailed that pick. And Cam Whitmore, like I think that he's going to need to get a little bit more consistent. He's been great. He's an athletic freak, and I think that it's absolutely absurd that he fell to 20, regardless of what injury concerns or pre-draft concerns certain teams had. But 20 is too low. But Amin Thompson is the talking point for this team. Like this is the guy to watch on the Houston Rockets. There's nobody like that's it. I think Jabari Smith is great, but this is going to be Amin Thompson's team.
Yeah, I do like their draft picks too, like Cam Whitmore. Uh, it makes no sense now, at least after what we're seeing in preseason, that a top five talent fell all the way to 20. And there's, well, like what from what we see, there's no justifying that. It's bizarre. Like, my only concern is they have like most of their talented players play in the same position. Like Cam Whitmore, Jabari Smith kind of overlap there. Both are the power forwards for the future. Like, you have to choose there. Like, they have good wing players already. Like Tari Easton last year was so solid, especially defensively. And then when he was required to step up offensively, he did it too. So they have, I feel like they have a lot of talented players. I don't know how they're going to manage their roster. Like does it come to Jalen Green also being expendable? I don't know, but I'm interested to see how Jalen Green performs with a serious coach. Like, that's something we never saw, right? He didn't have that, so he was a chucker. But now that he has a serious coach, he has serious veterans on the team. He has a proper, well, I hope so, table setting point guard in Van Vliet. I want to see how he can perform. So even though they won't make the playoffs, I'm eager to see how this roster turns out. But they do have to pick who they want to go forward with. I feel, yeah.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
don't think it's gonna be
Yeah,
Jalen
there's a
Green
lot of
either.
overlap.
I just don't think
What's
it's gonna
that?
be Jalen Green who they're gonna, give away.
Yeah, I don't see them necessarily trading him, but I don't think he's the
No,
future. Like
definitely
that's
not.
it.
Definitely not.
No, like this team, like it's looking long. You know, like Jabari Smith Jr. and Cam Whitmore and Amin Thompson. Like though, that's your like. I think that they honestly have one of the brightest futures in the league now. After
After this
this
draft,
draft,
yeah,
after what I've seen from just like this preseason from Amin, like
and there's still
I'm so
Shengun as
sold on.
well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Shingun,
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
he's
he's
so
good.
good.
He's pretty
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
nobody.
he's pretty good.
I remember Kai last year saying that Jalen Green was gonna be most improved player, and I think this year is it's definitely more likely to happen now.
I don't
I
think
don't think
so
it's
because I
I
just
still don't think it's gonna happen. I just think it's more likely now. I think he's this is his best chance to finally show us
I
just how good.
agree. It's
yeah
more likely to happen this season
yeah
than it was ever last season. I agree.
yeah. I just feel as though like obviously he's not going to be getting as many
Hmm.
shots this year, right?
And
With
maybe
like
that's a good thing.
Fred and Dylan, like
Maybe
yeah, no, it is. I think that like he's going to need to reel it in. He needs to rein it. He needs to
Yeah.
rein himself in, no question. All right, interesting. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by the Rockets.
yeah.
I think they're fun. I think they're really fun. All right, Los Angeles Clippers. I think this team's a lot less fun. I'm I think that every single year since trading for Kawhi or like since signing Kawhi and trading for Paul George, I think this is the lowest I've ever been coming into a season. I have no faith left. I don't see it anymore. Like every single year we've entered the season being like, you know what? Like if they're healthy, they can do it. Even if they're healthy, I just don't see it. I'm sorry. I don't. Like it just doesn't work for me anymore. I think that every single player on this team is overpaid. I just don't think that they have the additional piece, like the depth that they need. I think that Tyron Lue's maybe a bit overrated. I just don't have any belief on it anymore. I'm out. I'm completely out. I think that they make the playoffs, but I don't think that this is a real contender whatsoever. Though I will say, I'll let Diego kind of go mostly on this one. I do like Russ here. I do actually really like the Russ. I like his role on this team. Um, I think that he works well with Kawhi and Paul George, and I think he works really well with them in the sense that like when they're injured, you know, he can actually play the game the way that he wants to play the game and have the floor to himself. So that's cool. He's just like with a bunch of role players that'll just help him out here. But obviously, like the big question with the Clippers is, are they going to be able to get James Harden? Because if they do, like maybe it's a different outlook. But even then, I don't know. I'm not in. I'm out. I'm out. Even if they get Harden, I'm out. But yeah, like the big question mark here is like if they're able to get Harden, where does this team go, and what does the trade package look like? And I mean, why is Terrence Mann untouchable? Like, what do they know that we don't? I yeah, I don't know. I'm out on the Clippers. I have no faith. I just don't see it. My rose tinted glasses are completely gone. I just I'll believe it when I see it,
No, yeah.
man. You know, like Kawhi looked as good as he ever did in like the latter half of last year and in the playoffs. It was incredible. It was a sight to see. I was so happy to like it was Kawhi from 2019 that we were watching for a good chunk of the year there. And again, it's just injury after injury. Like he's never gonna be healthy. We're never really gonna get to see this. I'm out, man.
Yeah, no, what do you call it? The Harden situation is just wild. Like Terrence Mann being untouchable in that trade is just ridiculous. Like
Who's
I get it.
Terrence
Like you'd
Mann,
have
bro?
to give away maybe three players, including Terrence Mann, to get James Harden, but James Harden is just that much of a talent as to where that won't even matter anymore. Like I don't know. It's hard to really wrap my head around it. Maybe it's because of Harden's reputation in the league. Maybe it's because if they don't win, then they're just gonna lose Harden for nothing. Maybe it's all of that extra stuff that they don't want. But I think it's still a risk they should take because this is the Clippers' last chance of really doing something with this roster. And even again, it's still a chance. because as it is every year, this team is basically still a hypothetical because it always just matters. It always comes down to their health. And when you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George as your two best players, I don't know when it comes to your health that's kind of tough. That's kind of
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna bet against what I've seen from those two players
Yeah,
up to
but
now. You know,
that's
like
the
I
thing
can't.
though. Because of those two players, I think that's the only reason why they also do have a chance to win it all. That's the only reason why I still think they can be contenders. And as you mentioned with Kawhi, we literally just saw Kawhi play like 2019 Toronto Raptors champion Kawhi. He can still be that good. It's just he just keeps getting injured. That's all.
Yeah, everything's a but though.
That's the thing
Everything's
with
a
this
but,
Clippers team. That's
right?
why it's so
Like
weird.
there's there's no bigger ifs in the league than if these two are healthy. Like you can't rely on something less than their health. And I don't believe in it at all. And I'm sorry, like even if both of them are healthy, you're not beating the Nuggets. You're not beating the Lakers. Like you're not good enough. And like Terrence Mann hitting 7 open threes 2 years ago isn't gonna fricking save you. I'm sorry. Like you're
Okay,
not good.
I still think they can beat the Nuggets and the Lakers. Like
Okay,
if
okay.
Kawhi
I'm
and
good.
PG are
I'm
healthy,
good.
bro,
I'm
this team
See,
is capable of beating any other team in the playoffs. It's literally just a matter of their health or not. Because on paper, this roster is actually built really nice. They have the pieces that they need to surround Kawhi and Paul George with. It's always going to be a matter of if those two are healthy, if those two are playing at their best.
I
Bro,
don't like their
A
pieces.
healthy
I don't know.
Kawhi
Like the
Leonard
more I
is a
look at
top
it, I
five
don't
player
like
in the
it.
league. A healthy
Who?
Kawhi Leonard is a top five player in the league.
Sure, but like what about the rest
The
of the
rest of the roster
roster? I
is
don't
nice.
like it.
It's
It's
built perfectly to
mid. Batum's
it
bad.
complements Paul George
Sorry.
and Kawhi.
Name who's good past Powell.
Russ Russell
Stop,
Westbrook.
bro.
You just said
Enough.
he's a
Enough.
great fit with this team.
No, dude,
Even though
look,
Russ is a
they have
is
they
more of a
have
shell of
four
himself.
solid guys and nothing else. Zubac isn't good. He gets absolutely run off the floor in the playoffs. The plus minuses when he's in, when he's starting games in the playoffs, have been horrendous for as many years as the Clippers have made the playoffs. He's been a minus in the postseason. Plumlee's freaking old. Like everybody thinks he's what, like Jokic light? Give me a break with this guy. Nick Batum's overpaid. Marcus Morris doesn't play, or like he absolutely will not play. I'm like, what am I looking at here? Terrence Mann, who scored 39 points 2 years ago on open threes. He's never doing that. That's not who he is. He's an 8 point a game scorer. This isn't an untouchable guy. Kenyon Martin Jr., dude, good stats, bad team. I like him. He's athletic, but he's not. This isn't a real team. Like I've not sold on their depth. Robert Covington is old and washed. Like every single player here is overpaid and washed. Every single one.
I don't know
yeah,
about
when they assembled this initially, there was some promise. Like when they got Covington, at that time he looked good. Initially Batum looked promising. Initially, like Terrence Mann had that couple of games in the playoffs, so there was promise. I think anyone would be silly to deny that, but right now, no, there's nothing left. And
No,
the whole,
I think there still is promise. That's the thing. Because that's the
based
thing
on
with these
what?
guys, they don't need to be great. Like sure they can be washed or whatever. Like they're on the older side. That's for sure. But they can still play within their roles. Like that's the thing. Everybody here has a role. And it's not something huge. It's not some big shoes they
but
need to
but
fill.
you have to be good at your
Like
role.
Nicholas Batum. He's a
yeah,
3 point shooter.
Batum's
That's really all he
he's a below average player. Like
Yeah,
that's
but
it.
that's all you really need him to do. I'm not hyping up Nick Batum, that's for sure. But again, his only role is to hit threes. Robert
What, two
Covington,
threes a
who
game?
is also on the older side, has actually looked pretty good in the preseason. He's been solid. And last year he didn't get a lot of minutes because Ty Lue obviously played Morris a lot more than he ever played Covington. So Covington got a lot of DNPs, or he just played in trash time. But I think given those minutes, Covington can still be a good 3 and D player. That's for sure. Bones Highland as well. I know Kai. I know Kai don't like Bones Highland, but I think he's a
I
decent
got
scorer.
nothing for him.
I think he's a decent scorer. He's a
I got
little bit
nothing for him.
crafty. He knows how to get to the point. He's not super efficient as a shooter.
Oh, really?
He's not a shooting efficient shooter, but again, this is a guy who can really he's like a spark plug on the bench basically. And obviously
That's
Terrence
what
Mann is
Norman is. That's what Norman Powell is. Like like the good thing about the Nuggets is that they don't have that overlap, right? Like every single player has carved out exactly what they're supposed to do.
that's the
Like what's
only real
Norman Powell
overlap.
and
That's the
Bones
only real
Highland?
overlap in this team.
Norman Powell's like the 10 times better Bones
Yeah,
Highland.
no, I agree. But again, this is the only overlap. Like you have
If
two guys,
Batum
two
scores six
scorers off
points
the
a
bench.
game, bro, I don't care if he hits 40% of his threes. I don't
He doesn't
care.
even
He
need
scores
to.
6 a
6 points a
game.
game is fine.
That's nothing. That's useless, bro. He started 19 games last year. This is like basically your seventh man. He scored 6 a game. This team's
Listen, you only need
trash.
Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to really take this team to the
You
next
need
level.
them to be
That's
healthy,
what I'm saying.
dog.
This is in a world where they're
But they're not
healthy.
going to survive the regular season. These two aren't healthy. You get
That's what I'm
Batum
saying. This is a
starting games.
hypothetical team. This is a
No,
hypothetical
so okay,
scenario.
so even in your hypothetical, if they were to survive the whole regular season, because of how trash the rest of the team is, they're going to have such a big workload in the regular season that they won't be able to survive. They won't be able to stand on their legs come
But
playoff time.
I actually don't think that they'll survive the regular season. Anyways,
Thank you. Thank you. They
but
won't, dude.
I
They're going to be
actually
like a.
do like the roster construction though. That's all I'm saying.
I don't. I don't. I think they're going to be a 7 or 8 seed. We spent a lot of time on this
Yeah.
dog team. Can we move
You mean
on?
the championship contender?
Can we talk about a real
This is a real
contender?
contender,
You know,
bro.
a real,
This is a real
real
contender.
Los
Yeah,
Angeles,
let's talk about the real Los Angeles team.
the Sacramento Kings.
Los Angeles team, not California team.
California, bro.
Okay.
Okay, go
So,
ahead.
so there's a reason that the Lakers have 17 championships, which is the most, well, tied for the most. It's because their constant ability to churn out championship level rosters. And what Rob Pelinka has assembled for the upcoming season is a championship level roster. The Lakers went to the Western Conference Finals last year. Sure, they got swept by like marginal points every single game. They and then they just got stronger. They got depth for the first time since the bubble year, and this depth was the reason why they kept struggling in the regular season. Right? They went for star power. They went for Russ. They sacrificed depth, and then they struggled in the regular season, which is why they had to face good teams early in the playoffs, which led to early knockouts, like the Suns a few years ago. And then even against the Nuggets, like they had to beat the Grizzlies and the Warriors to reach the Western Conference Finals. So that, like, you're already getting tired facing the best teams. So now that they have depth to have a strong regular season, they don't have to do that. So I think that's one of the main concerns is addressed right there. And like they have such, like, the depth is just so good. I can't predict what closing lineup they'll end up with. They also have the roster, like they have the ability to like flip guys to bring in somebody at the deadline if they need it. Like D'Lo and Rui Hachimura could be flipped for anyone. They need a they don't have a real point of attack defender. Like I do like Wando, but they have the ability to just go get somebody at the deadline. So that's why I feel like this is a really great constructed roster. I don't know if I'm not too convinced if they can actually beat the Nuggets, but also like in the playoffs, luck also matters, right? Like last season, when you just look at the highlights of those games, it was Jokic and Jamal Murray hitting absolutely insane shots, like with the best defense, but it was just better offense. There's a chance that it doesn't happen again. Like luck is a big factor. So if it works out for the Lakers, they could very well beat the Nuggets. So I feel like they did the most possible. And like I know they were rumored to get Brook Lopez, Bruce Brown. It just wasn't physically possible. So I think they've done the best, and that I feel like they've put themselves in a position to at least go back to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I think the Lakers are definitely a lot better than they were last year. That's for sure. And I they I honestly never thought they stood a chance against the Nuggets in the playoffs last year, but this year they have a very good chance. And if I were to bet against one of the teams, I feel like I would actually take the Lakers today over the Nuggets. But again, these are two top tier teams in the West, two contenders. And yeah, I just think this roster is perfectly built around Bron and AD as well.
Yeah, I really like Aaron's point about like the contracts that they have outside of like Braun and AD and probably Austin at this point. Um, if you kind of look at the D'Lo and Hachimura deals, so D'Lo's on for about 17 mil. Yeah, 17.3. Hachimura's on for 15.7. If you toss in an extra $4 million, which you can find in the shape of a Taurine Prince, a Jalen Hood Shafino, a Jackson Hayes, even you get Kyrie Irving.
Mm.
No,
I
but
know. I
seriously,
saw
like
that.
that's exactly the way that these contracts shaped up for Palinka and the Lakers, right? Like that was their plan. At, I mean, that was their plan last year. That was who LeBron obviously wanted. That was who maybe some Lakers fans didn't want. But obviously, like getting Kyrie there is going to be better than D'Angelo Russell. The contracts just shake out perfectly, and obviously D'Lo and Rui were both signed this offseason, so you kind of gotta put two and two together there. Maybe think that Palinka's thinking ahead with a move like that, but even with the core that they have now, like I don't see the need for them to necessarily go out and get someone like Kyrie. I really like this core. I think that AR is absolutely ready to take the next step. Like that's a legitimate big three. Austin Reeves is so much better than I ever thought he would be. I remember he hit that like game winning three in his rookie year, and I was just like, okay, it's just another Lakers player that the media is going to talk about for a week and be like, is he that guy? Like I remember we had this with like THT. We've had this before, you know. Like I wasn't sold whatsoever on Austin Reeves. It's like I don't know. We had like a couple Kent Bazemore days, dude. We had
Oh
like
man.
Stanley Johnson days near the end of the season, right? Like whenever there's like some mid, like some kind of not mid, some crappy Lakers role player that just comes in and has like one good game, all of a sudden he's the talking point for a week. And I thought that that's what Austin Reeves would be. Boy, was I wrong. Like this kid is incredible. I think I love watching him play. I think that he's way better at drawing fouls than a lot of players in the league. Like he's really taken advantage of that superstar whistle. But he's just so crafty at getting into the paint. He moves so well in there. He draws contact incredibly well. He's a great shooter. Um, and he pairs perfectly with LeBron and Anthony Davis. So even without someone like Kyrie Irving, like even if they don't make big moves at the deadline, I see this team going all the way.
That's the thing. They didn't make any like super big moves, but they made so many small moves that overall added up into something into like a great roster basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they retained most of the pieces that they traded for last year. I really like the Taurine Prince edition. I mean, Christian Wood looks kind of crap, but like he's their backup big. Like they signed him to a minimum.
Yeah.
Who cares? Like that's all you're really like. You're not looking for him to score 10 a game. You're looking for him to put up Nick Batum
And
numbers.
see, that's the thing,
So
right? Even if he doesn't pan out, sure, like they have another big man in Jackson Hayes who's actually looked decent in preseason.
Yeah,
He looks
yeah.
smart for once. Maybe that's the whole like Lakers like I don't know, like he's performing with all the lights, despite the lights being that bright. I don't know. He still looks good. The Lakers, I think that was a solid move. They brought in Gabe Vincent, who is definitely a downgrade uh, in comparison to Dennis Schroeder, but Dennis Schroeder needed the ball to excel. Gabe Vincent does not. So that's another player who just fits seamlessly with this team. And like Torian Prince, I think he's a perfect three. I think he's going to be the starter because for Wando, he's a better defender, but his offensive impact is minimal. So like Torian Prince offers more. Like he's a solid corner shooter, and like compared to Rui, again he fits in better. Like you can't play Braun and Rui together, but you can play Torian Prince and Braun together. So I think that's where Torian
Yeah.
Prince is a smart signing for them. Whether it whether it happens in the playoffs for them, that's a different story. But this is the
Yeah.
best they could do.
They've got the depth to tough out the regular
Yeah.
season, I think, right? It's like it's good depth players, not like the Clippers. All right. Let's move on. Memphis Grizzlies, Diego, you're up, man.
Ah, gave me the Grizzlies. Man, I don't know. The Grizzlies are a big question mark this year. Honestly, they've in the past 2 seasons they were the second seed, right? They won 50 plus games in both seasons. They're consistently a very good regular season team, and even in the playoffs, they haven't even been bad at all. And last year, I thought they were better than the Lakers. I thought they had a great chance against the Lakers, but obviously that didn't pan out how they wanted it to. So they fell in the first round, and it was very, very, very disappointing. This year, the biggest pickups to the biggest changes to the roster were that they added Marcus Smart and hell, Derrick Rose. These are two guys who I think kind of bring the leadership that this Grizzlies team needs because especially when you have John Morant who has been under so much controversy in the last year who is about to miss the first 25 games of the season. They kind of need that. Obviously, they lost Dylan Brooks as well. They replaced him with Marcus Smart, essentially a similar kind of player. So it doesn't really change too much, but again, leadership wise, I think they need that. They just have to survive the first 25 game season. I still think they'll be a good team. I don't think they'll be real contenders, honestly. I think they'll still be a good team, especially when John Morant comes back. I don't know. There's a lot of promise here, and I think Desmond Bain is also bound to have another great season.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at like I was checking Marcus Smart out a little bit more, and I really don't think he's good. I think that like he brings like the dog and like the attitude that this team might have lost when they
But
lost
again, they
Dylan
still
Brooks.
had that already before, so it's like they just replace it with a different guy
Yeah,
who basically does the same thing.
yeah, and Marcus is smarter,
Yeah,
right? Like he is more
yeah.
mature. He does kind of make the culture his own. But like I think that he sucked last year. Like his defense was pretty horrendous. After we had kind of like propped him up, obviously as defensive player of the year, he was very much worse last year, and I was shocked that he was getting as many minutes in the playoffs as he was when Brogdon and Derek White was clearly the best pairing for the Celtics backcourt. Marcus Smart just hasn't looked good. We saw one good season from Marcus Smart, and that was his defensive player of the year season. And before that, he was bad. And after that, he was bad. I think that we maybe just propped him up because he has like the attitude to want or like be willing to defend like the 4 and the 5 as a guard. But really like he tricked us. Um I don't see it. I mean, like if we're gonna be talking about Derek Rose as an off-season addition, like I think we need to like obviously I'm not coming after you, Diego, for this. I think that
No,
I'm
they
just
just
coming
didn't really
after
have
every
any
single
major additions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Like Derek Rose is not an addition. I'm sorry. Like they lost Tyus Jones this offseason. They lost Dylan Brooks. Like both of those players are better than Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is not like this is a guy that couldn't crack anywhere near like the top 10 on the Knicks. Derrick Rose is not good. Like this isn't a real addition. This team subtracted big time and they're not going to have John Morant for 25 games. You know how important Tyus Jones was to this team when John Morant wasn't playing? Now he's gone. This is one of the best backup point guards in the league. He was incredible. His assist to turnover ratio was the best in the league. He's so smart with the ball. He brings a completely different cadence than John Morant had when he was on the floor. And I think that's a massive loss, especially when you don't have Ja for 25 games. I just I'm really low on the Grizzlies as well. I think their offseason was horrendous.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like another point about like Dylan Brooks, I get why they wanted to move on from him, but like you weren't happy with his boneheaded decisions here and there, and that's fair. But then the solution was to bring in a guy who averages 38% from the field for his career. Like, I don't get what you did there. And you also lost size, right? Like now you're expecting Desmond Bain to be your three at 6'5"
Yeah.
when he's clearly not up for it. You had a guy like Zaire Williams who could have been your potential small forward, but he just never made that jump. He was never put in a position to make that jump. So now your your backup wings just look bad. Your guard depth also looks bad because Tyus Jones is not there. So it's just I don't know, like they definitely got worse. I don't know if they're expecting Desmond Bain to just be an all-star this year and take them that far. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, that's not who he is. And now they're going to be relying at the wing on guys like, look, I like Jake LaRavia. You know, I like David Roddy. I don't mind Kenny Lofton Jr., but like these aren't like that's not who you should be relying on. Like you're a team that has drafted some of the like you've had some of the best drafts I think we've ever seen. And now all of a sudden I'm looking at the roster, I'm like, where'd it go?
Yeah,
Like
they've lost a
where'd
lot
your
of good
depth
players
get?
over the
Like
years.
yeah. I don't know. I'm not there on the Grizzlies. Like I'm way under on whatever their over
I
under
just
is
think
right
when
now.
Ja comes back, they still have the trio of Ja, Triple
Of
J,
yeah,
and Desmond Bain. So I think they're still gonna be decent. Like they were already good before. It's just that now their surrounding pieces aren't as good as it was before.
yeah,
Yeah, that big
yeah,
three or
Yeah,
whatever is certainly still one of the better trios in the league for sure. But
yeah.
when the surrounding pieces get that much worse, there's only so much those three can do, I feel.
yeah. And at the end of the day, like the big question mark is Ja. Are you gonna get it together? Like, are you gonna freaking like stabilize yourself? Are you gonna figure out if you want to like put basketball at the top of your priorities? Because Jesus, dude, you're
Yeah,
wasting this.
Yeah.
he's way too talented to just let this happen. Let this keep happening. 25 games is a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
it's too
Yeah.
much, but it's too
So
much.
that's gonna be another big obstacle that the Grizzlies kind of have to get over, and I just don't know if they can get over that.
Yeah. All right. We're going long. Let's take a quick break,
All right.
and yeah, we'll be back in a second to get into the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right, and we're back. We've been going a little bit too long, so we're actually gonna speed through a little bit. We're gonna go a little bit faster on some of these teams that are coming up. Thankfully, a lot of them aren't real contenders, but let's start with a more mid-level team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm gonna set my timer real quick just to make sure that we don't go too far. All right, Minnesota. I kind of like this team a lot, actually. I think that they're going to not surprise. I think that a lot of people are maybe like expecting them to take that next step, but I think that this is pretty serious. Anthony Edwards, obviously, we saw what he did at FIBA. He looked like the best player on that team. and I expect him to translate that into the regular season this year. Uh, but I think that the real fulcrum and the real deciding factor on this team is actually Cat. If he keeps mailing it in, like, does it really matter how good Ant is? If he keeps just like talking in interviews and kind of screwing up his image and kind of just being a goof, like, where does his team go? I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, and Ryan Russillo mentioned something that he called the shithead factor, and Cat's pretty high on that, where it's just like you just got a kind of stupid player on your team that just talks a lot and just shouldn't be behaving this way. Like, it does ruin the vibes on the squad, and I think that this is a team that everyone else there is pretty serious about winning. But Cat is kind of just mailing it in sometimes. Like, you never really know what you're going to be getting out of him. And if he's good, if he's actually on his game, and if he's giving a shit, like, this is a real player. This is a real player that could turn this into a legitimate playoff contender. Um, I expect them to be solid, though. I like their role players a lot. Naz Reid looks incredible. Jaden McDaniels is, I think, maybe the best wing player in the entire, like, wing defender in the entire league. Shake Milton looks like a solid player off the bench. Aaron, you're gonna like this. I like Luca Garza a lot. He had what, a 30? He had a 30-point game in the preseason. I think he looks nice. Having that is like, I mean, he's not going to get much playing time because he's essentially what, the fourth big on that roster. Um, Kind of iffy. I guess I could deploy him at the 4, but I like him. He looks solid regardless, right? And obviously Nikhil Alexander Walker, that's my guy, Canada's finest. I think that, like, that pairing on the wing with McDaniels is going to be solid. I really like their draft. Getting Leonard Miller in the second, I think, is going to be a steal. I can't believe he fell that far. Like, this is such an athletic wing. Like, he's such a freak, dude. And he's been looking solid in the preseason so far. He had like a 22-point game in the same game that Luca Garza dropped 30. So promising youngsters on the squad. Rudy Gobert 3-pointers. I want to ask you guys this: over under 2.5 this year, not per game, just on the year.
Over. Smashing over.
You think he hit? You think he hits more than two and a
Yes,
half 3-pointers
easily.
this year? Okay.
Over the year. Yeah,
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 two and a
over.
half. Over? You think he hits like 3 or
I think
4?
he hits 4.
Okay. All right. Respectable. I'm so here for it, bro. I like the Timberwolves. I think they're actually going to be a good team.
Yeah.
It just depends on Cat.
He's too talented to be talking the way that he does. That's what I don't like about Cat.
Yeah, but he thinks he's more talented than we think he is.
Nah, he's one of the best offensive
That's why he
talents
talks.
ever, bro.
He's one of the
So.
offensive talents for sure.
Yeah, he's one of the offensive talents of all time.
Yeah, he's one
No,
of them.
but I agree. Like, I never like looked at their off-season editions before, and I do like how sneaky good they are. Like, I like Troy Brown Jr. too as a backup wing player for them. He's solid as like your eighth, ninth guy even, because they did lose Torian Prince, right? So they still have the guys to make up for it. They still have Kyle Anderson, who's a solid wing guy. I I love
Oh
the
yeah.
Leonard Miller draft pick, and Naz Reid, I feel, is the best backup big in the league. Like,
Yeah.
I
Nas Reed
wanted
is
him
serious.
so bad on the Lakers, but I knew it was just not going to be affordable when he hit free agency this year. He's just so good, and I love that they retained him for the long term. I As long as they figure out their like front court pairing, I think this team is going to be fun to watch, especially with Ant making the jump that we're all hoping that he does, and he looks primed to do it too.
Yeah, no, Ant is legit. He's freaking legit, man.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
incredible, man. Pure dog. All right, let's go. Next team. We've got the New Orleans Pelicans. Aaron, you're up,
Okay,
man.
so the Pelicans chose to retain their roster. Their only big off-season move was literally to re-sign Herb Jones for the long term, and that was it. And I see why they did it. When this team was healthy, on January 2nd, like 26 games into the season, they were third in the West when Zion was averaging 27, 26 on a mental 60% from the field. And that's when it just went downhill. He never played a game after that day, and they just sunk. They finished ninth, lost the play-in game to an unproven OKC team, and just looked embarrassing. They somehow finished above point 500, but like that's when we thought that okay, this team's not going anywhere. Like it's tough to see, and I get why they wanted to like run it back again, hoping that Zion stays healthy, because they saw what happened, like similar to the Bull situation, right, where they saw in a limited like sample size that this team could be good. I think that's what Griffin felt, but I don't see it. I don't see how you keep CJ McCollum after how bad he looks running your offense when a guy like Drew Holiday was available. Like the jersey swaps could go fire too, honestly. I don't get why they didn't go all in for a guy, because like if you want to stay contending, why not make a real effort to do that? Like CJ McCollum, the last time he was this inefficient was when he was like 23. His free throw shooting's also gotten worse. He's not a true point guard. He's horrendous on defense, and you're expecting him to be your lead guard. That's so I don't get what their belief is here. I think when it comes crashing down this year, that's when they'll make a serious decision. Because right now, Griffin said that Zion's going nowhere, and I get it, but I feel like it's about to change when the season ends.
Yeah, it's gonna be ugly. I agree. I mean, you talked about health. Obviously, that's going to be like the big topic of conversation when it comes to the Pelicans, particularly with Zion Williamson. But we're already entering this season with the team under duress from health. Trey Murphy is not going to play for 10 to 12 weeks, or at least he's going to be reevaluated in 10 to 12 weeks. Jose Alvarado's out. Najee Marshall is out. Um, Larry Nance is out. Hopefully, he's ready for opening night. Like, they're getting killed already. Like, this is not a healthy team. And, like, if you can't rely on the health of your role players and the depth pieces on this squad, and you can't rely on the health of Zion Williamson, like, this team's not going to go anywhere. Like, this isn't a squad primed, ready to survive the regular season, right? And like we've seen them be good, right? Like they were first in the West at a point last year. It was incredible to see. Trey Murphy, I think, has like looked like one of the steals of the 2021 draft. Herb Jones as well. And I agree. It's good that they inked them long term. I mean, I would have liked having him on like a 1 year, $1.8 million contract and let him hit restricted free agency the next year. I think that that's just smart money. But like, keep your guys happy, keep your guys invested. Like that's solid. But yeah, I don't see any way for this team to contend if again like you're entering this season unhealthy. It's bad already. And Zion looks great. Like I'm so happy
But
that
then
he
he
looks
always looks
great.
great when he's healthy. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
like one
100%.
injury
And
away
then
from changing the whole organization.
yeah. I just don't know if only Zion is enough anymore with like in
Yeah.
this Western Conference.
No, sure.
And like and BI and Zion like just it doesn't I don't like the fit. I think that it's just too much, not even it's not even overlap, like they just don't know how to play with each other, it seems. And I mean part of that is Zion not playing most of the time.
Well, yeah.
So it's hard to develop that chemistry. It's tough, genuinely. But yeah, I mean, I'm not high on this team. I think that they missed the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think we'll make the playoffs either.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Next team.
OKC.
Ooh,
OKC.
OKC. Let's
OKC.
go.
Maybe
OKC.
next year.
Oh, buddy. What a fun team.
Yeah. OKC, man. I love this team. I love this team. Last year,
Say word.
Last year they made such a promising leap that I didn't really expect them to make. They won they won 40 games and they won one game in the play-in, but they made the play-in tournament, which was a step in the right direction. And I think they faced the last two teams we just talked about. So they played New Orleans in the play-in. They beat New Orleans, but then they had to play Minnesota right after to make the playoffs. And obviously they lost to Minnesota. And I think a big reason why is because of one of their biggest issues that they've struggled with for the entire year, which is just that they didn't have a good big man. They didn't have a good big man. And this year, this is why this is so exciting. It's because this year they didn't really make any big off like any big moves in the huge moves in the offseason, but they have Chet Holmgren coming back. That's the one thing I'm most excited for because Chet Holmgren can completely change this team and it can make this team that much better because I think he is serious. Him and Wemby, like the game that where he played against Wemby, they both looked phenomenal. And I think Chet can really just turn this Thunder team into a serious team, basically. And Shea, we already know how good Shea is. We already know what the kind of player he's gonna be. He can still grow, but he's already a top 15, maybe top 10 player, you can argue, in the league. Josh Giddey is primed to take another step forward. I hope he improves offensively. I hope he can hit more threes this year. But last year he already improved, so that was a good sign. J Dub, J freaking Dub. I love that man. He's so good. He kind of just does everything for this team. And then Lou Dort, obviously, still amazing defensively. Offensively, you can ask for more consistency. That's for sure. I think he's the only one who I would say is possibly doesn't have a future in this team, but I still like him on this team, of course. And then yeah, Chet Holmgren. This this team is primed to take another leap, and I think they do make the playoffs this year. And I'm super excited to see it.
J Dub looks incredible.
Yeah,
Straight up, like I think that is one of the smartest draft picks that Presti has
it's
ever
my
made.
favorite, probably my favorite
Like
draft pick in a long time.
I am blown away by how good that kid looks. Like that, like Giddy's awesome, but Jalen Williams is like the second star on is going to be the second star on this team behind Shea. Like this dude is incredible. There's nothing he's not good at. He's such a force. He's plays with so much effort. I mean, every single player on this team plays with so much effort. Like they care every single night. Like you will never have an easy win against the Oklahoma City Thunder ever. They're well coached by Mark Dagnall. Everybody knows exactly what they're doing. I I'm really high on this team, and I'm really high on Jalen Williams. I think that this guy's next.
Yeah, I remember. So during my hot takes, I said they might not make the playoffs. It's hard, like after seeing how Chet was battling with Wemby, it's hard to like say that. So I think they outdo the Clippers. The Clippers miss out, and the rest of the teams stay the same. And I think Memphis sneaks in, but I do think this is a playoff team. It's hard to not see it. I just hope
Yeah.
that they like Chet is able to stay healthy and that they have. I don't trust Lynn Williams to be their backup big. That's my concern here. Like their uh front court depth. But if they stay healthy, I think they should be solid.
I really think that they should make a
Yeah.
trade this year. Like seriously, like if there's a team that is kind of struggling, looking to blow it up, something like that. Like let's say the Raptors just aren't good, right? Let's say
Mm,
like there's a world where Pascal
mm.
Siakam does hit the trading block. I'm sorry, but like use that draft capital, go get someone like that. Because if you get a star onto this team, the way that Shea has been playing, the way that he like legit, you said top 15, bro, like he's easily top
Yeah.
10.
Yeah. All NBA first
Like
team means top 10, if not more.
no question. no question, he is incredible. You get like another real star alongside him, and J Dub and Chet and Giddy. Like that is fearsome. That is a scary team, and they play hard. They play really freaking hard. I I mean, like I've been high on them all off season. I think everybody around basketball has been so high on the Thunder all
Yeah.
season. But what I've seen throughout the preseason so far, that like absolute battering of the Bucks, what they won by 23 points. Jalen Williams looked incredible. Like
Mm. That's
Chet.
what I'm saying.
Oh
I
my
literally can't
god,
believe it. Chet is so freaking good.
he's so good. Like the rookie of the year race is going to
Yeah.
be immaculate between him and Wembanyama and Ben Simmons. Like it's going to be nuts, dude. Like bro, 18 points on 7 of 8 from the field against like Milwaukee's starters. I'm so impressed by Chet. I'm so impressed. And
He
like,
he looks he looks pretty different from how he looked last summer league as well. Like not only
yeah.
physically, but just even with how he plays. He's already more
Mhm.
mature. His handle is already tighter. And obviously defensively
Yeah.
he's a monster.
I can't wait for him to
Yeah.
prove everybody wrong. Everybody doubted his frame. I'm so
That
happy, bro. I'm
defensive
so
that
happy.
defensive impact
It's the
is what
same
I'm
argument.
here for. I'm going to
Yeah.
be so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
hyped to
That's
see that.
the biggest thing they lacked last season.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah. And
they got killed by the Timberwolves in the playing game.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. Like I think the Dort is like probably the expendable piece here, but for now, having him as like your primary point of attack
Yeah.
defender, and Shea's a great defender as well. Jalen Williams is a solid
Yeah.
defender. Like that's a solid defensive lineup. The thing that they were missing was the big. They needed a rim protector, and they have
Now
it.
they
They absolutely have
yeah.
it, and it's the rim, and it's like Chet is the prototype of the center of the future, alongside what Wembanyama is. They have it. Like I'm
If we
so
could see these
excited for
two
this team.
battling for rookie of the year, that I can't ask for more.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Isaiah Joe off the bench, yo,
Oh
that's
my
my
god.
guy still. All right. Yeah, no, I'm loving the Thunder. I've been watching their preseason games. It's
Yeah,
been beautiful
it's
to
so fun.
see. All right. Phoenix, Diego, you're actually up
Oh
again because we did
word.
make a trade. So
No.
let's get it. We
Oh
spent a
my
lot of time on
god.
OKC. I know we're gonna go
Okay,
faster,
Phoenix.
but whatever. We
Let's
can
just cut
spend
to the
less time
chase
on
with
Phoenix.
Phoenix. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty straightforward. It's a 3-man show with a kind of mid supporting cast, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, this team is only gonna go as far as KD, Book, and Beal actually take them. But in the preseason so far, what I like is that they didn't do as much ISO as I thought they would. Obviously, it's still there. Like it's gonna be there. These are three extremely good isolation scorers, but it wasn't as much. They tried to integrate guys like Nurkic, into the offense, which is a positive sign. Like I hope they do that more. But again, the roster depth is not great. Sure, it's better than when it was with when they had Aiton. But again, they lost a big talent in Aiton for 3 players, and you're only probably going to play one of those players in the playoffs. Like I think they'll be a good regular season team, of course, and I think they'll be okay in the playoffs. But I don't see them as a contender this year as much as other people do. I don't know what else to say about Phoenix. It's just those
Yeah.
three
I
guys,
mean, they've
three
yeah.
incredibly talented guys, and
Yeah.
the mid supporting cast.
I don't mind their supporting cast too much. I think that it kind of helps them play with pace. Like when we saw them beat the Nuggets in 2 games last season in the playoffs, they did it because Kevin Durant and Booker were just getting every single shot they wanted, and they played with pace. They were fast. Like they did it without Chris Paul, and that's what like Chris Paul kind of made like Chris having Chris Paul on the roster made them play slow and made them play at like a more like slow tempo. They like set up their plays more. They played within a set offense, but now they're running the floor like crazy again with this lineup. And having Beal there is only making them faster, and having them run through guys like Josh Okogie, Keita Bates Diop. Like this team is fast. I think they have the third fastest pace so far in the preseason. And I expect that to be kind of how they play. And when they need to slow it down, again, like they have three incredible isolation scorers that can just dominate in the half court at will, right? Like this team is going to be an absolute fearsome squad on offense. The problem is really going to come through their defense. I just don't really like Nurkic whatsoever.
Yeah, Nurkic is awful. Just straight up, he's bad defensively.
Yeah, he stinks. No
Yeah,
question.
like KD is their
I just
best defender on the lineup. Like that's insane.
yeah. Booker looked really good in the playoffs last year
Yeah,
too. I like when Booker's put that effort, but yeah, I mean, like Josh Okogie, I guess is a solid
yeah.
defender.
Beal's
Whatever.
definitely not. Yeah,
I'm not watching them for defense. I'm watching them for how high
yeah.
powered they're
But
going to
that's
be,
the
how
thing.
fast
They
they're going to
are
be,
one
how
of the
dominant.
highest powered offenses in the whole league, and that's
Yeah,
the only thing that makes them scary, really. And that's why in the playoffs, like single handedly or triple handedly, however you want to call it, like those three can win you games at any given night.
yeah,
I still don't know if they have the personnel required to like survive defensively in the playoffs. Like when it comes to point of attack defenders, if Devin Booker is your point of attack defender, I mean, when you just look at his defense, sure, he might be able to manage, but you're at the same time, you're also expecting him to produce equally on offense and be your point guard. I don't know if he can do both. I don't know if KD
hmm
can survive in the post against a Giannis throughout the game while producing like 27 a night that he does otherwise. I don't know if those guys can do both sides of the ball. That's why I don't trust them in the playoffs. Regular season, 100%, I don't think they should have any problems.
Yeah,
yeah. I think that Vogel's a good coach for this squad. I think that he's going to be solid. Hopefully he can like bring something out of Nurk, but yeah, I don't think that this team has the depth to contend with a lot of these other squads. We still need to see how the three fit together. Like the difference between like Phoenix's big three and the big threes in I guess Golden State, LA, the Lakers, and like Sacramento, right? Is that like we've seen how they work together. We've seen continuity. This team has just been thrown together, and we've had problems with that in the past. So yeah, we'll see. All right, next up, what do we got? What do we got? What do we got? My bad.
Portland,
Is it
I think.
Portland?
mm.
Where the hell did it go? Yeah, I mean, I trust you.
Yeah, it is Portland. Okay. So
Okay. All right. Cool.
they finally did it. They finally blew it up after years even of like everybody wanting them to just like start over. They finally did it. I'm glad this team decided to hit the rebuild button because they were going nowhere. Like it was they wasted too much of Dame's career, and like they kind of gave up to when they got rid of CJ McCollum. Like this was a solid pairing that they had, and like you broke the continuity, and I think that's where they themselves lost trust. I had a feeling that they would go through another season with the same roster when they signed Jeremy Grant to that massive extension. Then Dame was talking about how yeah the draft pick is going to be traded, blah blah blah, all that, but Joe Cronin stayed patient. He got the deals he wanted, and now they have an exciting squad at hand with like some super talented players and DeAndre Ayton. So
Dominating.
uh, I'm interested to see how they do. I think I remember when Jalen Green was drafted, everybody said, yeah, the Rockets team is going to be exciting to watch. They never lived up to it, but I think that's how it's going to be in Portland. This is going to be a super exciting young team to watch. They've got some freak athletes in Scoot Henderson, Shaden Shaw. They're they're amazing. They're high flyers who will put butts into seats. And I think that's enough for this year. And they do have the pieces to make a push in the upcoming years. But I'm happy to see what they're doing in Portland.
Yeah, I think that this team's gonna suck, but I think it's gonna be fun to watch. Like I'm gonna be watching a lot of Portland games. DeAndre Ayton needs to retire that nickname right
He has
now,
it
dude.
tatted on him
Like
though. Like you can't change it
when,
anymore. You can't change
dude,
it.
yeah, but he's got the money to
Yeah,
get
I
it,
know.
removed or covered up. Because when, bro? When have you ever done that? When has anybody ever called? Like you can't coin your own nickname. That's
Playoff fever.
embarrassing. That's really embarrassing. Like you need to have a little bit more self-respect. I'm not surprised that like the Suns traded him for Nurk, cuz like dude, get a hold of yourself. That's another guy, He's got the cat factor. Like buddy, who are you? Who do you think you are? What have you done? What have you done?
Oh man.
Okay? Um yeah, like this is a team that's absolutely rebuilding. I think that they've had one of the best off seasons in the league. I think that they absolutely made the most of Damian Lillard asking out. They didn't give him everything he wanted, as they should. Like they don't have to like bend to his every will. Like he's asking to be
I'm
traded. You
so
traded him. You're
glad.
not going to
I'm so
make
glad that they didn't get
you're not
Tyler
going to
Hero.
take some crappy package that you don't want.
Yeah, I'm glad the Blazers didn't get Tyler Hero. Like for the sake of
Mhm.
Scoot, for the sake of and for the sake of Shaden Sharp. Like my
Yeah.
goodness, that would have been.
No, I mean, and then flipping Drew Holiday for that return, I think that Brogdon and Robert Williams are both pieces that they will have no trouble trading at the
Oh,
deadline, right? Like
those are good
they
assets.
they
Those are
should
good
they
assets.
should they should send Rob Will to like I wouldn't mind him in Oklahoma. I think that that'd be a great
Yes.
fit.
You're cooking. You're
Yes.
cooking. I like that.
Like there or like I guess Dallas would be nice too, but like I I really love their offseason and they're going to be primed to like really cement this rebuild for years to come and make the most of this rebuild. I think that Cronin has played it smarter than a
Yeah,
lot of other GMs when it comes to like moving off their star. And
it's
I'm
crazy
really
because
excited for this team in the
Portland's
future.
Portland's been criticized for so long now for being just such a terribly ran organization. But like
Yeah.
this whole offseason, they've done the right. They've made the right moves, and now they actually have
Yeah.
something really good to look forward to. And I love Scoot, man. Scoot's
It'll
for
be
real. Scoot's
fun,
for
dude.
real.
He's scary. I love Scoot. All right. Next up, we've got Sacramento Kings. My Sacramento Kings. All right, let's get it. So I was high on this team last year, and I was right. So I just want to toot my own horn a little bit here before I get into how happy I am for the Sacramento Kings. I was right. I was so right. I loved the Keegan Murray acquisition. I thought that that was the exact right way that they should be building out this team, getting role players that fit a win now mentality, right? Harrison Barnes is solid. Every single player on this roster, I think, is just solid. Getting Malik Monk to fill in as your sixth man was absolutely a smart decision. Getting Kevin Herter to play the two and just be like an absolutely lights out shooter, so smart. I love this team a lot. And what they did last year exceeded every expectation I think that everybody had for them. Like I said in my bold predictions, I think that Keegan Murray is ready to take the next step here. He didn't do great in the series against Golden State. He had one good game, but I really liked what I've seen from him in the lead up to the season. He's creating his own shot. He had a really good game against Golden State last night, actually. Super solid. I think he didn't have the best 3-point shooting night. I think he was 3 for 9 from deep, but it was still a solid game from him. He was creating his own shot, and that's kind of exactly what you want to see from him. Coming into the draft when he was selected, the biggest issue for him at Iowa was that he just didn't he didn't have the ability to do that. He was that guy that like you'd swing it to on the wing. He'd hit those open shots. He was a great shooter at Iowa. He was a solid scorer, but he didn't really have the ability to score off the dribble. We're seeing that a lot more from him this year in the preseason, and he dominated summer league again. So yeah, I'm really high on Keegan Murray. I think that if he takes the next step, Sacramento Kings also take the next step. I yeah, I'm super high on this team. I love them. I love the McGee signing. I think that that's just an absolutely smart, big addition to their rotation there, because we saw their weaknesses once they got cooked by Kevon Looney in the playoffs. Like getting a guy like McGee with championship, experience, getting a guy that's like unafraid to crash boards, who's actually like a high basketball IQ player, especially on defense, I think is going to be really big for them. So they made all the right moves again. They didn't make any big signings. They didn't have any big departures. I just think that they played the offseason smartly and with stability.
Yeah, and I think that was the right decision. Like not to go for a splash, just like take smaller steps to get better. Like even the Chris Duarte's trade was sneaky good, right? Just 2 seconds, you get a guy who can be a like a microwave scorer off your bench, and it's not like they need him to be. They just have the luxury of that talent on the bench. So I think that was a sneaky good move too. And I do like the McGee signing. Like Rashawn Holmes and Metu were not making it to the roster. They were played off the court. So getting rid of them while adding a championship experience veteran is a solid move. So and I don't know about Sasha Wezenkov, but like he's a EuroLeague star, so that's more
Yeah.
offensive firepower for them.
I mean, like they were already a historically great
Yeah,
offense last year. I only expect them to get better this year, right? The one thing is like you can only surprise teams. You can only surprise the league once, and now people know that the Kings are legit, and they'll probably have a much bigger target on their back. But I mean, this team, it's like they loved playing together last year. Like the vibes were immaculate. I don't see them, and like they don't have bad personalities on their team. Like there's no red flags really when it comes to this squad, and the personalities they have there. So I think that like they keep the happy go round,
yeah.
going round. Yeah, I'm excited for this
And like
squad.
the surprise factor, sure they might have lost that, but they also gained some valuable playoff experience that they didn't have last year, right? So they came in as playoff like newbies. That's not the case anymore.
Mhm.
They had seven, like a good ass series against the Warriors, went to seven. So all that experience, I think, might help them to elevate what they did last year.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Next up, I'm going again with San Antonio. Fun. Lucky me. All right. San Antonio. Obviously, this is the bad team that everybody's going to be watching this year. But I actually don't think they're going to be that bad. I think that this team has a non-zero chance to make the play-in tournament, despite how crowded the West is. Because what I've seen from Victor Wembanyama so far has absolutely met expectations from what I hoped to see from him in the preseason. He's looked absolutely insane. I, there's a few plays every single night that you watch and you think to yourself that there's no other human in the history, like since man walked this earth, since we emerged from the water to evolve into like two-footed, two-legged land beings. No other human has ever been able to do the things that Victor Wembanyama does. That like that strip on who was it? Who did he strip? I think it was against the Thunder, right? Well, regardless, the his recovery on like that strip, or like his help defense on that strip, was just absolutely absurd. Like you're standing by the 3-point line and you strip a guy that's like driving into the paint from behind. I don't understand it. And that recovery block on J Dub that he had, it's not possible for anyone else. He's calling for lobs at the 3-point line. Like he's nutmegging Reggie Bullock. There's nothing he can't do, and he's 7'4". Every single night with him, he can have a bad shooting night like he had last night, where he started the game off like 0 for 5 or 0 for 7 and hit like 7 of 8 of his free throws. Like that's where his points were coming from. Like he finished 3 of 10. It wasn't a great game. Finished with 15 points, but more than anything else, it was just highlight play after highlight play, because every single thing he does, it's just unimaginable. Like you're not supposed to be able to do the things that he does. It's better than I expected, and I'm in love with it. And I think that like him becoming a superstar right off the bat, I have a hard time believing he won't be. His work on defense is absurd. Like this guy's gonna go all defense in his first year in the league. Signing Devin Vassell to that, like just to touch on other players on this team other than Victor Wembanyama, Devin Vassell, that contract is so smart. Good for them. Lock up that core. Devin Vassell looks awesome in the preseason so far. They still have Keldon Johnson, who I think is not as good. He looked a lot worse last year without DeJounte Murray kind of setting the table for him, but they've got him locked up. Jeremy Sohan is locked up. Zach Collins looks like an absolute dog. What a great signing they had. Like what I think that was last offseason when they got Zach Collins from the Trailblazers. This team is smartly built, and I think that they're ready to reestablish that winning culture in year one with Victor Wembanyama.
Okay, I don't know about winning culture, but they'll get there. They'll definitely get there. They're setting themselves up in the right direction. I Keldon Johnson, I definitely think he's going to be a hurdle. So I think they should definitely try to move. Devin Vassell is awesome. I agree. He fits very well in that roster. On that roster, I like that they have Trey Jones, who's a natural playmaker too. So well, if they do end up swinging Keldon Johnson maybe like next season, I think they might be taking the next step earlier than what we thought, because Wembanyama just does look too fing good.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, when you hype up a prospect to be that good and you can still live up to it, and I think he will live up to it. It's just incredible to see. Like the pressure is insane, first and foremost. But I think Victor's the exact kind of guy who can live up to that pressure. He also has the right attitude.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, like the entire organization is making sure to set Wemby up for success. You know, like there's buy-in through every single facet of the organization. They're bringing in the vets, right? Like they're bringing back Tim Duncan, Manu, Tony Parker to like talk to
yeah,
him and mentor him. Greg Pop is staying in house and he's clearly adapting his coaching style to fit Wembanyama. Everything is set up for him to succeed, and that's exactly what an organization should be doing when
that's
you
why
get a
you can
prospect
never
of that
really
caliber.
just doubt the Spurs front office.
Yeah.
They're so
Yeah.
consistent.
It's incredible. Okay. All right. Last team on the docket, the Utah Jazz. What a way to end it, eh?
Okay. The Jazz, I don't think anyone knows what direction they're trying to go. Last season, we thought they were blowing it up when they traded away Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, but they started 10 and 3, uh, flirted with 0.500 for a bit, and then they still won like 30 plus games. And sure, that was due to the emergence of Laurie Markkinen as an all-star. Everybody loved to see that, but at the same time, I feel like they hindered their further development by missing out on a top 5 pick. Like they could have had one of the Thompson brothers on this team, and that would have been just amazing. But now they have Taylor Hendricks, who barely played in the preseason. I think he has injury issues. He might end up in the G League. It is concerning for like somebody you pick as the ninth overall pick. I do like Keontae George, though. I think there is a lot of potential there. Definitely, I think
Yeah.
they have some guys on the team who are exciting to watch. I do like Oche Agbaji, who they drafted last year. They have some solid pieces, but it's just questionable moves that they keep making. Like John Collins, I don't know why they had to trade for him. Uh,
I mean, they didn't pay.
yeah, but it's like I don't know where Danny Ainge is taking this team, but he definitely has talented players on his roster, like Walker Kessler too. I love that guy. We thought because he's so traditional in his like play style, he might not see much off the court, but he proved everyone wrong. He's a solid literal Rudy Gobert replacement. And I think if they pick like a directions around Markkinen with the right guys, this can be a fun team at least.
Yeah. I agree. Like they were enjoyable
Yeah.
last year. Like they still had a solid team, and then they traded everything away and just found like absolutely blew it up. And you're right. Like who knows what Danny Ainge wants half the time? He doesn't feel like the type of guy to like he's all in on rebuilding, but he can be swayed pretty easily. Like if a star were to like end up on the trade market, the Utah Jazz have the picks and the players to kind of swing a deal there, right? Like to acquire someone like Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, something like that, like a Karl Anthony Towns and Joel Embiid. There's a reason why they were like somewhat like floated as like a Damian Lillard destination, right? Because like they have the assets to kind of pull it off. And if they want to start contending again, they could. Um, do they have the right roster for it? I wouldn't say so, but I think that like whichever way they want to go, they can go. Right? Like they have the ability to take the direction that they really hammer down on this year. You can still flip John Collins. I think that Kelly Olynyk is absolutely one of those types of pieces that you flip at the deadline for a couple like second rounders, maybe a young player. Like I could see a lot of teams liking a Kelly Olynyk on their squad. Like that's a good depth big, good depth 4 or 5, no question. John Collins again, like whatever, man. You traded a couple seconds for him. He's fine. He's 26. Crazy to me. But yeah, I I don't mind the outlook for the Jazz. I think they're good. I think they're gonna suck this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if like somehow next season they get a
Yeah.
superstar.
Yeah. I just think if you keep guys like Laurie, Walker Kessler, and Keontae George, like I think if you just build around that for now, like they'll be good. They just have to make the right decisions moving forward.
All right,
Yeah.
we good? Sweet. Yeah, we didn't really
Yeah.
need that much time to talk about the Utah Jazz. Keontae George
Yeah.
looks really good though.
Yes.
Shout out
He looks
Keontae
really
George.
good. Yeah, he's solid. I mean, like I understand why he went 14, but he's really good. He looks better than he should than like a 14th overall pick. All right. That's all for this episode of the Positionless Pod. Next week, is Mike going to be back?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, he won't be like affected by like jet lag or anything
We
like
will
that.
ensure he's back.
He will be. Okay, all right. That's actually big because next week we will have our awards predictions and standings predictions episode. So it's gonna be a doozy. It's gonna be a hectic one. It'll be fun. It'll be a slice. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. Good job, guys. We went a little bit long, but we need to allocate time to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I don't mind that we went a little
And
bit
Clippers.
long. Who? What a waste. Could have spent that time on the Thunder.
This
Yeah.
Thunder
Okay.
Western Conference Finals gonna be a movie.
I know. It's gonna be wild. I'm excited.
Good.
All right. That's all for us. Thank you guys so much for listening. To those on YouTube, to those on Spotify, thank you. Goodbye. Make sure to follow along on all of our social channels. You can find us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, obviously now YouTube. Make sure to follow us, rate, review on Spotify. If you disagree with anything we said, leave a comment down below. Signing off for the brightest young minds in the basketball media landscape today, Aaron Matthew, Diego San Agustin, Michael Anthony Cruz, we miss you. I am Kai Gamage. Boys, it's been a slice.